Beanies are a very promising niche. I think that there is a lot of money to be made with beanies. And as we are moving into the colder time of year, the demand for them is going to grow. I've pulled up a bunch of brands for beanies. Beanies are these knit caps. There's a bunch of synonyms for beanies, knit caps, toques, winter hats, and on and on. They're just going to get better, and there's a bunch of reasons why they're a great niche. They're undertapped. I never saw people going through the beanie sections at thrift stores in San Diego. That might have to do with the fact that it's San Diego, but they would put them in these little metal baskets on the ends of the clothing racks, and they would typically be full, and it wasn't that hard to find name brand beanies. They're also really lightweight, and they're not like ball caps, which are structured. So you have to put them in cardboard boxes, ideally. If you put them in mailers, like normal bubble mailers or priority mail envelopes, they can get distorted and smashed up and damaged. Beanies are soft. They have no skeletons. So you can just put them in a poly mailer and mail them out. I think now is the time to stock up on these things when it is still warm. So let's take a look at general numbers. I just searched beanie. I did search in men's because they make beanies in kids, like baby beanies and kids beanies. And I just wanted to narrow in. So men's. Women's beanies should, I would think, follow similar sales trends. I definitely sold more men's beanies than women's beanies, but a lot of this will probably translate over. Also important to note that the sold data on all of these searches is for the previous 90 days, and those 90 days were summer. So the numbers are only going to improve as we get into fall and winter. So this is actually a good baseline by which to judge comparatively other brands. So brands that are really strong, the sell-through might be 2 or 3 times higher in a couple months from now. Just for a pre-owned men's beanies period, we have about 6,000 sold listings and about 35,000 active listings. So as you can see, on a genre level, not the highest sell-through at the moment. This is a Canadian word for beanie, 141 to over $1,000. So toque as a keyword, not necessarily that strong. Another synonym, knit cap, 8,300 to over 3,900, also not all that strong. Knit hat, similar story. I think beanie is perfectly fine, so I just searched beanie instead of the other terms that could apply. This is interesting. Lots of beanies. A lot is one listing of multiple items. So a lot of beanies has a relatively high sell-through. So 115 to 381 looks like down here. This is promising. So if you can find beanies in less desirable brands, but you can find multiples of them and you can get them for cheap, which typically you can. I recall beanies being priced no more than $3 or $4 at most thrift stores in San Diego. Your area might be different. Fabric is important. A lot of beanies are made with acrylic. Acrylic or polyester or nylon are going to be probably the least desirable fabrics because they're the most common. A lot of wool beanies, though, being made, and it does quite well. So the actual sold number there was around 1,400, and this is 9,000. Sell-through isn't amazing, but you'll see a lot of the desirable beanies and the desirable brands that go for above average money will sell typically in wool. And here's an Ibex beanie. This is a great outdoors brand that makes a lot of merino clothing. This is up for sale for $34. Cashmere beanies are, I believe, more common with women than with men, but some good money there, and the sell-through, as you can see, is not that bad. So 64-ish to 180. And cashmere is a wool-like material. I think we probably all know what cashmere is. It comes from a goat, and it's much softer than wool. It can be worth some good money. Here's Louis Vuitton. Here's Hermès. Alpaca is another good fabric to know. It is like wool, except it has the added advantage of smelling like diarrhea when it gets wet. So for some reason, people make clothing out of it. Maybe it's warmer. I don't know. I've never really worn it. 391 active to 59 sold. It is a little bit more exotic. So these sales numbers aren't that impressive, but I have done well in the past with alpaca clothing. So it's just like a good thing to keep in mind. Here's a Moschino. that sold for 70 bucks. Is that alpaca? Maybe it doesn't say in the name, but just something to be aware of. And as with wool, 100% alpaca is going to be more desirable than alpaca blends, probably. There is also a market I've noticed for vintage beanies. A lot of it is vintage bands and vintage sports teams can do really well. 1,100-ish sold to around 5K. Yeah, just over 5,000 actives. Comparatively, those numbers are pretty good. This is going to boil down to the specific piece, and you're going to have to take it on a case-by-case basis. Not all vintage beanies are going to be worth money. Let's get into the actual brands. Some of these are going to be great. Some of them are going to be more common, but still decent. This is a great brand with a capital G. If you find anything Canada Goose ever, buy it and sell it because it's just an insanely good brand. I've never found it, but it's like instant money. I'm surprised the sell-through is that low, but look at these active prices. A cheap one is around 50 bucks. And you can see that they sell for at least that, 50. And these are out of season, keep in mind, somewhere south of 100. Here's one that sold for 80. Canada Goose, amazing brand. If you find any downfill anything from Canada Goose, you might make like $1,000. It's been a while since I checked that number, so maybe there's an asterisk there, but multiple hundreds. Arc'teryx, this is kind of a stand-in for a lot of the prestige outdoor clothing brands. Arc'teryx or Ibex, like I showed you. I would think Smart Wool would probably apply to this. Any of the really nice merino brands or the really ritzy, like Arc'teryx outdoor brands, their beanies are going to do pretty well. The sell-through is over 100%. And just like Canada Goose, these prices actually are comparable to Canada Goose, maybe a little lower, 30, 40 bucks. But for a knit hat that probably weighs 5-6 ounces at the most, that is some great money. This is another kind of pseudo unconditional resale brand. There's the logo. If you don't recognize it, it's an Archaeopteryx skeleton. Here's a great bread and butter option. Ralph Lauren. Most of these are Polo Ralph Lauren, and the sell-through is pretty healthy, 162 to 321, so around 50% sell-through. Again, over the course of summer, that's pretty good. The prices aren't all phenomenal. 10 to 20 bucks, 10 to 30 bucks maybe, and there's a few standouts like this. The reason this one is over 40 bucks is it has the Polo Bear on it, which is a vintage icon, I guess, or logo. If you ever find the Polo Bear on stuff, it tends to be worth some good money. But even just standard stuff like this, Polo Ralph Lauren, knit beanie, probably sold for around 20 total, I would have to guess. When it's slashed through like this, that means it was sold on a best offer and you have to download Chrome extensions to mine for that information, and it seems kind of sketchy. So that information is not necessarily available. Double RL, okay, why not? Let's talk about double RL. There's all kinds of sublines of Ralph Lauren that are worth more than standard, the more common stuff, certainly more than Chaps or just vanilla. Polo Ralph Lauren. Double RL is one of them. I've never seen it spelled out like that, double RL. Usually it's an R, then a backwards R, then an L, or vice versa, like a backwards R, then a forwards R. You get the point. That stuff's amazing. I have Ralph Lauren actually broken down by sub-brand in the Menswear Manifesto. This is it. It's 160 pages long. It's my Pay What You Want Bolo guide. And I break 401 men's clothing brands down by sell-through rate and price. And in the Ralph Lauren section, you can see I broke all of the major subcategories of Ralph Lauren down by their relative popularity and such. There's also a 50 brand update called the Supplement that is available. It lives on Gumroad. You can pay me what you want. Give me something for it. I suggest 20 bucks. It pays for itself. It's made people a ton of money. Figure out what you think is fair, and if you're interested in that, there will be links in the description. Montclair is like Canada Goose. It is a buy-on-site brand, assuming it's authentic, because it is faked quite often, and I would assume Canada Goose is as well. 39 sold to 59 actives, or 73 it looks like, so sell-through is not the amazing part. The amazing part is this right here, over 100 bucks for this big logo Montclair. beanie. Here's one that sold for 130. That's insane. Or did it sell at auction for 77? Even so, still insane. Montclair, here's the one that sold for over 100. There's the logo. If you find anything with that logo, double check, do your diligence, make sure it's real. If it is real, buy it, sell it. You'll make a ton of money. Another nice outdoor brand, Fjallraven, however it's pronounced. So 24 pre-owned men's beanies to 27 active. So around 100% sell-through even now on the off season. And not Montclair numbers, but as you can see, if you get one with the big old logo, so you can advertise to people that you're a Fjallravener, then you can get 50 bucks or more. Here's another one with the big logo, sold for over 50 bucks. North Face, a bread and butter brand. Not all North Face does that well. The basic men's button-up shirts have never really impressed me that much. They've always been difficult to sell. Beanies are decent, 146 sold to around 610 active. So it's not like a grand slam, but this is the kind of thing that you will run into periodically. They're not that tough to find when you're out thrifting. And you can sell them for between 15 to 25 bucks. Just one of those decent, reliable bread and butter things. If you can get it for cheap, you can flip it, make a decent profit for not that much work, easy to ship, so on and so forth. This is where you will make a lot of your money reselling, stuff like this. Here's one that's GoreTex line. That's interesting. Let's actually do a GoreTex search. 7 to 30. GoreTex is a waterproof fabric that tends to be pretty expensive. It may be a Vero brand on eBay. I've heard conflicting things about that. Looks like the sell-through isn't phenomenal, but if you find GoreTex stuff, chances are it's probably worth a little bit more. There's another bread and butter outdoors brand. I don't even know. Why are we here? This is not GoreTex. Let's look up Mountain Hardwear. 46 to 62. Another decent bread and butter thing here. Another one just like North Face. 30 bucks probably at around tops. More likely to sell it for 15 to 25. Colombia, I include here because it's actually not that great. 121 to 1300 plus. More like 1400 beanies. Colombia of the outdoors brands is the most hit and miss in my experience. The numbers just are not that impressive. Here's one that sold for, what is that, 12, 13 bucks. Just be careful with Colombia. Here's a vintage one, sold for over 50. Carhartt, my signature beanie, 336 sold, pre-owned men's, and around 1500, surprisingly low sell-through for this right now. Carhartt is decent bread and butter though. It's hard to not recommend this even though the numbers are not that astonishing, just because it's so reliable a reselling brand in my experience. And right now it looks like you're not going to get a ton for it. I would assume these are probably acrylic. The wool ones I would guess are selling, the ones that are selling for over 20 bucks, or the ones with these visors. Still really solid bread and butter. Monster Energy is, I think people know about Monster Energy now, but it's kind of like Fox Racing. Like, it's a sleeper resale brand. A lot of Monster Energy niches are worth way more than you would think. Like Monster Energy hoodies, most times I look them up, are over 100% sell through, and they can sell for over like 30 bucks just for a basic hoodie in the right size, the right condition. Monster Energy beanies, it's kind of the same story. You know, you might not think that you could sell a Monster beanie for 20 bucks used, but there you go. There's one that sold for 24. Brunello Cucinelli is, I think, an Italian fine menswear brand that I include here because the prices are really good. This could be a stand-in for any number of luxury brands. If you find made in Europe stuff, probably look it up and look at these sold prices, or active prices rather. This is just to illustrate that even though it is a relatively simple garment, you can potentially make like two-piece suit levels of money with them. Not very commonly, but it is possible. Another great bread and butter brand, Oakley. There's a bunch of niches in Oakley that outperform the brand generally and perform better than you would think. There was 40 sold, 86 active, so around 50%. As with all of these, that's probably going to improve as we go into fall and winter. There's a vintage one with the big Oakley logo that sold for over $100. That's not typical. Another case of the bread and butter, 15 to 25 bucks. Solid, stalwart seller. Gorp core. Oh, Gorp core is an interesting keyword. That is good old raisins and peanuts. That is a twee term for hiking clothing, like minimalist hiking clothing that you can wear to and from the office as well. That's called Gorp core. That might be a good keyword to throw in there. I guess vintage Oakley might be worth better money. Wow, look at these. Well, a lot of 20, 30 bucks, but a bunch selling for 40, 50, 60 bucks and around 200%-ish. Nope, 25 actives to 19 sold. So around 100%, almost 100% sell through on vintage Oakleys. Nike, decent bread and butter. Everything that you know about Nike applies here. 299 sold to 708 or 750. Going to be a broken record. Here's one in a lot, or a lot of them that sold for not great money, but you know, you can find this stuff at garage sales too for $1 or less. This is not something that people are going to price up at yard sales. But here we go, 15 bucks, 15, between 15 and 25 again. And if it's vintage, might be worth more money. If it is something like this with your graphics, like Nike Air or whatever, if it's a subline of Nike. Patagonia, everybody's favorite bread and butter brands, 200 to around just under 400, 50% sell through. You're starting to get the picture. You're starting to get a feel of what this stuff is worth. This got listed as pre-owned. I used to do this. I don't know if this is still the case anymore, but Patagonia used to get a little punitive with resellers and flag new with tags listing. I don't know if they're still doing that or not, but I used to list North Face and Patagonia new with tag stuff as pre-owned, but show the tags in the photos like this. I don't know if that's the case anymore, but something to keep in mind, I guess. And here's one, a vintage one in this Southwestern colorful colorway, as the teens say, for over $100. If you find anything Patagonia, or really anything vintage from like a major outdoors brand that looks like this, probably worth really good money. These are typically some of the most desirable items in any outdoors brand. Under Armour, it's going to be like Nike, 85 to around 215, just south of 50% sell through. Prices are going to be a little bit lower, probably more like 15 average sales price. There are niches within Under Armour that they just hit like the bare minimum of being a reliable, decent bread and butter brand worth your time. Most of it is not worth your time, but certain things in Under Armour are. Here's an example, big logo, some kind of Realtree camo on it. It's fleece lined, sold for 30 bucks. Something more basic like this can still sell for just under 20. Filson, amazing brand. It's not as good as it used to be. It used to be like a complete slam dunk. The sell-through is not what it was, but these are over 100% sell-through, and you can see just, you know, like 30, 40, 50 bucks. Easy money. Sims, also very easy money. Sims has never wavered. Over 100% sell-through for beanies. This is one of my all-timer brands. Doesn't matter what it is. It's a fishing company that makes all kinds of stuff for fishing, including clothing. It makes t-shirts, it makes pants, it makes beanies, obviously, it makes button-up fishing shirts. They also make fishing gear. They make bags for fishermen, specifically fly fisher people, and waders. And I've talked this point up a lot because it's such easy money. If you find waders, and those are overalls that come up to your chest that are waterproof, they're worn by anglers. Even if they have holes in them, they will still sell. This is one of the strongest brands in all of clothing reselling. If you find anything Sims, grab it, sell it. Supreme is a stand-in for a bunch of different streetwear brands. I think most of the nice streetwear brands make beanies, and if they're real, probably worth picking up. Supreme, Bathing Ape, Kith, I think Teddy Fresh counts. Like, this is not my area of expertise, but these really, really expensive brands that do get faked a lot, if you can find them, and they're real, sell them for good money here. Supreme isn't as popular as it used to be, but this one sold for 55, because it's got the New York Big Supreme logo, another 55. And Gucci is a stand-in for luxury brands. Any luxury brand, if you find a beanie, especially if it has big logos on it like this and collaboration pieces, if it's recognizably the brand, if the people that buy it can wear it and tell the world that they're a big special person who is rich and better than them and they can afford Gucci or whatever it is, it's gonna be worth more money and it's gonna sell faster. Here's one with a big, horrible logo patch on it, sold for over $200. I don't have to tell it, is that like an envelope or something? I don't know. If it's real, it's gonna be worth money. All kinds of brands like this, you probably already know them. Be very careful with counterfeits. If you list a counterfeit, even unknowingly, on your eBay account, it can jeopardize your account. You can potentially get suspended. If you're ever in doubt about the authenticity of luxury brands, or streetwear brands for that matter, I recommend selling it on consignment, either at a brick and mortar store, or what I always did was the Real. And I think for like streetwear stuff, you can do it on Grailed. There are probably other sites, but you send it into them, they screen it, they authenticate it, and they sell it, they cut you a commission. Your commission will be less than you will make selling it yourself on eBay, but you offload all of the liability onto them. Hope this gives you some ideas. It's just another one of those little niches that you can pepper into your clothing selling or whatever it is that you happen to sell. And some of this can be easy money. It's not a slam dunk. It's not like selling N64 games or something. It's not a complete walk in the park. Also be careful with screening. With these knits, it can be tough to detect holes. And holes are gonna be potentially not a huge deal if it's like a merino wool, Arc'teryx, or Ibex, because you can sell that stuff with holes in it and stuff, but be careful for stains. And if you need to gently stretch the knit fabric out, hold it up against the light, don't distend it, but be thorough in checking. Also, I recommend probably washing these before selling them, because there's a higher health risk of transmitting like lice and scabies and stuff with hats than there is with clothing. Probably not a huge deal, but probably smart to do. And be careful with wool. If you don't know how to wash wool, watch some YouTube videos about it. Basically wash it in cold water, probably hand wash it, and then lay it out flat to dry. Don't put it in a dryer because it'll shrink. Just be cautious and use special like wool detergent, potentially. Just like be ginger with it because it's easy to discolor and distort. Hope this makes you some money. See you on the next one.